straight rider. You don't wanna fuck with me. Got the police busting at me, but you can't do nothing to me.
You motherfuckers hear what time it is? Alright, back at it with the only free MMA channel that fucking matters. Moment of silence for you pussy punk beta bagel biting bitch ass trolls that are gonna hate to hear this. Oh yeah. Hey brother, I forgot your name in the comments. I don't have it pulled up right now, but you are the motherfucking god amongst men for finding this soundtrack, sir. I will shout you out once I get your name. This video was requested by Bean805. He said either do a Ronda Rousey or a Diaz brothers versus the world. So we're gonna go with Nate Diaz since today's my last day smoking weed. So let's get into it. First we're gonna go into his history, do a little bit of knowledge, and then we're gonna go into his first the top 15 in the division. And I was fucking recording this video and it already got cut off, so I might go through this one a little bit quicker because I just fucking said everything I'm about to say. But let's get into it. I took some notes. Nate Diaz, 20-11, 23 in the UFC, 14-9 in the UFC. Fighting style, he's a boxer with a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He fights in 155 pounds. He has fought at 170 pounds, but at 170 pounds it's not his natural weight class and he did not look good. Nate Diaz, a fighter with a man on deck. He reminds me of Michael Bisping. He's got a man on deck. He'll fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. But he probably shouldn't be the champion. Definitely top 10. Arguably top 5. Not top 3 in the division. So if you've heard me say Nate Diaz is overrated, I mean it as in they're talking about putting him in a title fight. I think Nate Diaz is in the top 3 or the champion of 155. No. So to me he's overrated in that sense. He's not overrated as he's a bad fighter. Nate Diaz is a really good fighter. He's one of the best fighters at 155 pounds in the world. But he is not one of the top 4 in the division to me. Now, Nate Diaz is a guy who spoke out against the UFC before it was cool. He didn't get paid millions of dollars for it. He didn't get none of the special treatment for doing it. Nate Diaz has 11 losses. 9 of those are decisions. He's only been finished twice, 1 submission and 1 TKO by Josh Thompson after a head kick. 9 of those decisions, you have to wonder, he's spoken out against the UFC before it was cool. He's only won 3 fights by decision, lost 9 fights by decision. You have to wonder if speaking out played a factor into that. He's won 12 fights by submission, 4 fights by TKO KO, and 3 decisions. So he's a finisher. When he wins, he goes for the finish, and when he loses, it's by decision. He's only been finished twice. Put some respect on Nate Diaz's name. Nate Diaz was thrusted into stardom whenever he beat Conor McGregor for Conor McGregor's first UFC loss. Submitted him in the 2nd round. Epic fight. Now, when you look down Nate Diaz's resume, he's fought a lot of notable guys, a lot of legendary fighters, a lot of the top contenders. Now, in those fights, in those most notable fights, he has lost a lot of those fights. We'll go down his notable fighters, the ones he's lost to. He's lost to Clay Guida, Joe Stevenson, Gray Maynard, Dong Hyun Kim at 170, Roy McDonald at 170, Benson Henderson, Josh Thompson, Rafael Dos Anjos, Gregor at 170. Now he's beat Melvin Guillard, he's beat Donald Cerrone, Jim Miller. I think he beat Gray Maynard in the rematch, or it was before the... He's won with Gray Maynard, lost 1 against Gray Maynard, I believe. And then he also beat Michael Johnson and Conor McGregor. So he's lost to more notable fighters than he's won against. But like I said, a lot of those losses are decisions. Who knows if the UFC was pushing the guy that beat him? Who knows? Anyways, a lot of those are decisions. Some people say in the Conor McGregor rematch, he survived. Maybe a lot of these guys survived the fight with Nate Diaz. With Nate Diaz, they have a lot of scar tissue because they fucking fight a lot. So they bleed easier than a lot of guys. They've taken a lot of fucking punches to the face, it looks like. Or, you know, so that's why their fucking scar tissue's missing. They get hit, they bleed easier than other guys. So at the end of the fight, you might say, oh, look at his face, look at his face. I knocked the nose off that guy, Conor says. But really, Nate Diaz could have done more damage that fight. Maybe that plays a factor into also why he lost his decisions. But with that being said, he does lose to most of the top-ranked, higher-ranked guys that he fights compared to him beating them. Now, let's get into Nate Diaz versus the top 15 fighters in the lightweight division currently. Against Conor McGregor, I have Nate Diaz at 155 pounds. I think Conor McGregor would beat Nate Diaz at 155 pounds. Conor McGregor's coach came out and said Nate Diaz is literally the ideal style, the perfect style for Conor McGregor. He said if they could pick a fighter, a fighting style for Conor McGregor to fight, it would be someone like Nate Diaz. So, that was weird when he said that, because that means they picked Nate Diaz in a sense. Whenever RDA dropped out and it was Nate Diaz, I'm sure there were other people that wanted to fight Conor McGregor, but it ended up being Nate Diaz. And they're telling me it's because that you're taking everything I work for, motherfucker. That shit it was bleeped out on Fox, so a lot of the casual fans didn't hear it. So essentially, they took that fight. They picked that fight. Now you can say Conor don't pick fights, but after RDA dropped out or got injured, he had the choice between Nate Diaz and some other fighters, and it ended up being Nate Diaz. So, what I'll say about that is I do think Conor would win at 155, though. Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Nate Diaz. I think Khabib Nurmagomedov would win. Nate Diaz looked really bad in the Roy McDonald fight, but that was because he was the smaller guy. Roy McDonald took him to Suplex City. Round 3, suplexed him about 5 times over the back of the head, just suplex, suplex, suplex. So Khabib's a little smaller, so I would like to see what Nate Diaz could do there, because maybe Nate could submit him with his black belt in jiu-jitsu when Khabib has him on the ground. Khabib looked good against RDA, Nate didn't look too good, so I got to go with Khabib. Tony Ferguson, I got Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz. I just think Tony Ferguson fighter, he's like a younger, like he's damn near like a younger version of Nate Diaz to me. Really good jiu-jitsu, got good stand-up, but just a little younger, more spring, more game right now. So I got Tony Ferguson. Nate Diaz versus Eddie Alvarez, interesting fight. I would go with Nate Diaz. I think he's got better boxing, and I think he would be able to pepper Eddie Alvarez up throughout the night. I would honestly go with Nate Diaz in that fight. He might end up submitting Eddie Alvarez. Edson Barboza, I would go with Edson Barboza just because it's a bad style matchup. Conor McGregor was tearing Nate Diaz up with the leg kicks. Imagine what Edson would do with the leg kicks. Whew. Rafael Dos Anjos already beat Nate Diaz. I do think he would beat him again, but RDA is moving up to 170, so we don't have to worry about that. RDA is the bigger guy. Michael Johnson, Nate Diaz outclassed Michael Johnson already. I would definitely go with Nate Diaz in the rematch. Michael Chiesa, I would go with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz has a black belt in jiu-jitsu to help stifle Michael Chiesa's jiu-jitsu, and I think he has better hands. Number 9, Dustin Poirier. I would go with Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz is not a guy that gets finished, and Dustin Poirier will be looking for the finish. So I think Nate Diaz's boxing skills and his jiu-jitsu would help him win that fight. But Neil Dariush, same situation with Michael Chiesa. I do think Nate Diaz would be able to stifle his jiu-jitsu and be better with the feet. Al Iaquinta, that would be a good fight, actually. I would like to see that. Al might be able to get him. He's young. He's got those precision strikes. He's young in his game and his spring, man. He's a young spring chicken out here. I think he might be able to get Nate Diaz. It would be a good-ass fight. I would pick Nate Diaz with my head or my heart, but Al might actually surprise people. Kevin Lee, I would pick Nate Diaz. I would like that fight because I like Kevin Lee. I love what he's doing right now, but I would pick Nate Diaz. 13, 14, 15, Evan Dunham, Gilbert Melendez, Francisco Trinaldo. Pretty sure he would not fight Gilbert Melendez. They're teammates. They're in the scrap pack. But Evan Dunham and Francisco Trinaldo, I would go with Nate Diaz. They're 13 and 15. I do think Nate's better than that. All right, that is Nate Diaz versus the world. Shout out once again for the motherfucking background music. Let your boy know what you think about the background music. We ain't fucking around out here, as you can tell. This is a motherfucking instrumental. Hell Rail, some instrumental. This ain't no made-up music. You can't copyright this shit, boy. It was a song. It was an instrumental, so eat a dick. Send me another fake cease and desist if you want. Where you fucking punk pussy-ass trolls have to be in the comments. Never got a man on deck. Never want to motherfucking put a call on deck. Never want to do none of that shit. All you motherfuckers are just hating-ass trolls. I don't want to hear no more of that shit. All you motherfuckers can get it. Hit me up in the comments. I don't know what else to say, man. Fuck it. It is what it is. Let the hitters know what you think in the comments.
Hey, hope you're ready for the next episode. Hey, smoke weed every day.